Welcome, willkommen. It's me, Hans Dieter. Today, Dieter is going to talk about the history of the modern guitar. The modern guitar as we know it really came into being in the mid-1800s. Did you know that? Well, now you do. See? So, lots of people today, because it's 2022, have limited exposure to guitars, and depending on who you talk to, well, some people think the only guitar is an electric guitar or a steel string acoustic guitar. Well, both of those guitars came from what was before, which was a nylon string guitar. Now, quite a few people know about nylon string guitars, but it's amazing how many people who play guitar think they know a lot about guitars. Never mention a nylon string guitar. Well, that's like someone saying, don't you know your parents, or who were your parents? Well, no, I just came into being. I self-manifested right at the age of 66, just because I felt like it, eh? Yeah. Anyway, so the considered father of the modern guitar, and by that I mean modern acoustic guitar, which originally was a nylon string guitar, is Antonio de Torres, who lived, I think, from 1817 to 1892, something like that, or 1898. 1817 to 1892, I just put it down so I wouldn't forget. Anyway, Torres was, for you more modern thinkers who think that C.F. Martin invented the guitar, he was the C.F. Martin of his time in Europe. I don't think there were any cowboys or Indians, natives here in North America, playing guitar in 1830. May have been a few, I don't know, I wasn't there. So anyway, now, what was so special about Torres? Well, Torres, there were other guitars before that. I'm not saying Torres invented the guitar, but he did much like what C.F. Martin did. He just looked at what was around and started tinkering and said, okay, make this better, I can make that better. So he did. So what did Torres invent? Well, he invented the fan bracing that's still commonly used on modern classical guitars and some steel string guitars. And he was the first to use mechanical tuners. So all your Grover tuners and your Gotoh tuners and all that stuff, Antonio de Torres was the first to encourage the manufacture of those things and use them on his guitars. Now behind me I have a classical guitar and I have a steel string guitar. You see it behind me there? Yeah, because that's what I'm talking about. So Torres was an innovator, and the reason why he became so famous, and deservedly so, is his guitars were just so superior to everything else that was around. It just blew them away so well. Of course, you're gonna, if you want to, I mean, he couldn't make guitars for everybody. He was a player too. But all the best musicians wanted to play his guitars, deservedly so. So, good for him. So, of course, you copy. You usually don't, if you want to improve something, you usually don't copy what's bad, you copy the best. So, much like any smart person, the other luthiers around started copying Torres, and guess what? They started making good guitars too. Ramirez came into being, a modern, really good Spanish guitar maker, or classical guitar maker, is the Alhambra company. Now they say Spanish guitar because Spain is really, he's a Spanish guy who lived in Spain, and that's where all the improvements came. Some of the best players of the day, though, were from Germany and England, France, Doesn't matter where you're born. If you can play, you can play. But they all wanted to play a Torres guitar. And then later on, that became a Ramirez guitar. Yamaha has made some stunning classical guitars. There are lots of good classical guitar makers. As Robert Gaudin famously said, anyone with skill can make a good expensive guitar. If you give him or her expensive materials, they better make a good guitar. But what Robert Gaudin says is that the trick is to make a good affordable guitar. Good on him, and he does, I think, make good affordable guitars. So that's a little bit of history. Now, fast forward, a lot of people mistakenly think, I don't know why they think this, they just mistakenly think this, but that C.F. Martin invented the acoustic guitar. Well, he didn't. What was around at the time when he was young, and he's a German immigrant, and they were a cabinet maker and a bunch of his buddies, because they had guilds back then, so all these guys knew each other. What was around at the time were Torres copies. So that's what they played. So, you know, when they moved to America, these German immigrants who were cabinet makers, well, you know, you use what's available. So they thought they could make a, you know, they tried to improve on the Torres guitar. So what C.F. Martin did is his real only innovation was because they were copying the Spanish guitars, and a Spanish guitar has a different type of neck joint. If you see this, okay? It's called a heel and foot. There's what looks like a foot underneath here, and then the two sides are slid into a slot here, and that's still one of the most commonly used joints for a classical guitar. So even Martin's original steel string guitars had that classic Spanish foot heel joint. So his first innovation, real innovation, was the dovetail joint, which is a very good joint. So this is a dovetail joint. They're both very good, very strong joints. You can't necessarily say one is better than the others. A Spanish style guitar has less stress on it. They don't have truss rods. That may or may not be a Martin innovation. I'm not sure on that, but it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that people copied what was the best at the time. So in the 1830s, 40s in Spain and Europe, the best guitar you could get would be a Torres guitar. He was the guy who was making the best, and everyone wanted this. And in the 1850s in the United States, Martin wasn't the only one. He was the most successful one to make X-brace steel string guitars with a dovetail joint. And they were one of the best around at the time. So, you know, you copy the best. So what I'm saying is, in 180 years since, do you honestly think no one's improved on the C.F. Martin design? Like everyone, oh, he invented the Dreadnought? That may be true. I don't think he invented it. There were other people that were making them. His were probably the better ones. Well, they became more popular, so yeah. You know, Henry Ford didn't invent the automobile, did he? No. Anyway, so, but the reason I mentioned Torres is because he proved without it, beyond a doubt, everyone would say, oh, you know, and even nowadays people go, oh, look at the back and sides on this thing, oh, it's beautiful. And back in the day, Torres said, no, 99% of the sound of your instrument is in the top. It's in the top, and he proved it. He made a good top, and he made a paper mache back and sides, and he played it for people, and most couldn't tell the difference. Okay, so I don't care nowadays if you have fancy figured back and sides. Okay, it makes a little difference, like, you know, the density. Maple is denser than some things. It has a little brighter projection, stuff like that. But you know, rosewood is a little darker, has boomier. Mahogany, they do have varying characteristics. But by far the majority of the sound of your guitar is coming from the top. So the better the top you have on it, the better good guitar would be. So I guess where I'm leading with all this is to be what I consider really truly outrageous, horrendous money gouging by some of the large guitar manufacturers out there for their high-end models. And if that appeals to you, that's all bullshit, because I'm going to show you something about appearances. If I take my glasses off, does that change who I am? Does it change how I talk? If I put my glasses on, does it change how I look? Well, it changes how I look, but does it change how I talk? Does it change how I think? You know? If I put on this hat, does it change who I am? How I talk? No, it's an appearance thing. If I put on this hat, does it change who I am? Does it change how I talk? No, it's an appearance thing. It just looks different. Trust me, I'm the same detail. So, what makes you think, if, just for the sake of argument, let's say I'm a luthier, or I know a good luthier, and I want him to build me a guitar. And I ask him, I say, okay, the finest materials, how much will it cost me? He says, $1,000, $2,000. So I want the finest top. Okay, so you want the finest top? Torres only used European spruce. That's all he used. Cedar is a more recent thing. The only thing he used was European spruce. So you get me an Adirondack spruce top, North American spruce, or a Sitka spruce top. Yep. Okay. So how much will the best book matched boards cost me for my cedar top? Look it up. $180, $200. You want it torrefied? Okay, let's add another $100, $200. So my top's $500 max if I want a torrefied top, which is just an aged top. Back and sides, I want Brazilian rosewood or Indian rosewood. How much? $300. So the finest materials you can get. Okay, ebony fretboard, $80. So do it all. Like today's prices, I'm going to say, your woods might cost $1,000, $1,200. That's it. That's your raw materials. So now the skill of the luthier, whatever that guy's worth, he's the best, and he says this guitar will take me 100 hours, and I want to make $200 an hour. So, you know, what's 100 times 200? 20,000. So it's going to cost you $22,000 if you want a boutique handmade guitar. If you know, if I say it's going to take me 50 hours to make, and I want to make $100 an hour, well, that's $5,000. It's going to cost you $6,000, $7,000. Right? Did I do the math right there? Yeah. You decide. I don't care if I'm wrong. You get the point. So, what I'm getting at is is this. I don't care who you are, and I don't care if you paid $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 for a guitar. All I'm saying is that I think I could find a guitar that costs $4,000 or $5,000 that in the same player's hands would blow your mind and his mind. And this figured shit on the back and the sides and all the abalone rosettes and all the just think about this, okay? You start digging into your guitar and sticking in abalone and mother of pearl. Okay? You're taking out wood and you're filling it with glue and a shell, piece of a shell, and then you're doing that all up and down your fretboard. You're taking away from that guitar. How could you possibly think that's going to improve the tone of that guitar? You know, just like, you know, you can put 24 karat gold plated tuners on. They look nice if you like shiny stuff. I have a guitar with 24 karat gold tuners on it. I didn't ask for it. It came like that. It's a nice touch. Does it make it sound better? No. Does it make me play better? No. So, you know. So, I'm just saying, if you want to show off, but you know, I've played lots of high-end guitars, some really beautiful guitars, and still to this day, the nicest classical I played was $4,000. Beautiful Brazilian back and sides mahogany, beautiful top, nothing fancy on it. I think it was an Alhambra, I'm not sure. Yeah, $4,000. Now, I put that against any, I played a $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 guitar, classical, beautiful, no better, no better. So, that's one thing. The bling, okay, if you're in it, you have the money. Hey, I'm not knocking you. I'm not going. But to me, I mean, it's not going to make the guitar sound any better. I'm saying really, realistically today, the best materials, even including tuners, and I'm talking retail price. I mean, I can go online and buy this stuff for this price. I can order the best stuff for any luthier for $1,200, $1,300, 15 tops, Canadian. So where do you get off charging me 10, 20, 30,000 for something with bling? Yeah, maybe it takes you hours to do that bling. Well, okay, I'm not the kind of guy that'll spend that on a guitar. The other thing that bothers me is people that are into names and model numbers. Oh, I have a G28 made in 1960, blah, blah, blah. Well, do you know who made it back then? And do you know what kind of finish it has on it? Whatever, or I have a 1976, blah, blah, blah. But do you actually know who made it? Because people, I mean, let's face it, most of us have bought a factory guitar. Now, whether that had 3 hands on it, usually if you get a custom shop guitar, it's maybe had 3 or 4 hands on it. You know, maybe 20 different people down the line worked on your guitar. Do you know who they were? Do you know who glued it together? You know what kind of glue they used? Do you know any of this stuff? No, probably not. So, if I say I only criticize, and criticism isn't always negative. Criticism is meant to be, it's a critique, it's meant to be constructive. Oh, it's supposed to be objective. Okay, this is what you say, this is what I see. Do they match? If they match, that's called good criticism. Fair criticism is honest though, right? It's not, well, you know, hey, data, I'll slip you an extra $100 if you give me a good review. Well, no. So, if it's what you say it is, And I look at it and go, yeah, it's what you say it is. I'll say, hey, good job. It's what you say it is. Right? So, what am I getting at? I'm getting at this. I'm getting at there are companies, and I can name them. Martin's probably the biggest offender, and the big American companies are probably the biggest offenders. Martin, Gibson, Taylor, Fender, because they rip you off. Because they have this established name, they will put mediocre or substandard parts on their less pricier models, but charge you the same as if they were using better quality wood and parts. Okay? That's all I'm saying. So, buyer beware, and before, and this is another thing, okay? In 1850, if I'm in the United States and I want a guitar, chances are I'll buy a Martin and I'll like it. You know why? Because probably that's the only thing that you can get your hands on, right? If I'm a rock star from the early 1960s and I'm a bass player, well, guess what? I'm playing a Fender bass. You know why? Because Leo Fender invented the electric bass. 56 or 55, was it? I forget. Around the year I was born. Because, baby, that's all there is. And a little later, Rickenbacker came along, Hofner came along. If I'm an electric guitar player in the 60s, 70s, I'm going to be playing a Les Paul, or I'm going to be playing an ESP 35, or I'm going to be playing a Telecaster and later a Stratocaster. I mean, a Stratocaster. Yeah, later. I always get those two confused. Why? Primarily because that's all there is. Okay? If this 2022 was the dawn of the golden age of guitar, and and David Gilmour was just born 15 years ago, and the Beatles were just born 15 years ago. You know what? They would have so much nice shit to choose from, you wouldn't even know what they would be playing, okay? Right? Right? So, for Christ's sakes, people, have an open mind, hey? Do a little research, and a well-made guitar is a well-made guitar. But what I'm going to say to you is, personally, if it sounds like I'm knocking these American companies, this is what I'm knocking about it, and it's a fair criticism, because I've played lots of real nice American guitars. I've played lots of expensive American guitars, and by and large, the expensive ones were mediocre, and frankly, if I was in charge of Gibson or Fender and asking a price like that, I would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed. I really would. Because I know that I'm asking double or triple for the same thing done by a Japanese or Canadian or Spanish company that can do a better job for a third or a quarter of the price. I'm not going to give you names because I'm not into bashing it, but I don't care who you are. Even if you're a boutique maker and you're charging 40 grand because you can get it, well, good for you. That guitar isn't worth 40 grand. All right? Ponder that, eh? Have a nice day.